Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Prometheus Bob. I'm a drag king who lives in Los Angeles. And today we have a bit of a special topic for the channel. I had a friend ask me this and I thought I would just make a video about it. And they wanted to know how I knew that I was trans. Now, this is actually a question I've been asked many times in my life from people who are trying to figure themselves out. So I just thought, at this point, I should just make a video about it because it'll help someone. If you don't know, I'm a drag king. That's why I look like this. And as you can see, I'm trans. I have had top surgery and I have been on testosterone for about 2.5 years, I think, actually, which is huge. I don't really have like a shot day. I can tell my story in just a second, but that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah, why don't I just like explain my journey a little, just very briefly. So I am 33 and I decided to start transitioning pretty much as soon as I moved to LA, which was 2016. I think I was already thinking about changing my name before I moved. So about 10 years ago, I was getting ready to change my name. So I would have been 23. And then I actually got the paperwork. I think I submitted the paperwork 2018. I was like getting things together 2017, 2018. So I got my name changed September 14th, 2018. And then I had top surgery September 16th, 2019. I think I started T actually first. I think that was 2017 or 2018. I'm not entirely sure, but I was only on T for about 9 months. And then I was having some complications. My dose was too low. And I'm not gonna lie, my doctor was really shitty about it. So I just stopped T for a while and then the pandemic happened. So it just delayed things further. But I finally started T again in 2023. And I'm very, 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 very happy. I am now on a regular dose, which is 0.3. Don't know. I don't know. I just know it's 0.3 and I put it in my body, which is like twice, I think, from what I started. I think I started really, really low at like 0.15. Hi, I'm editing, so I'm out of drag, but I felt like it was worth mentioning here that I also stopped T back then because I wasn't sure. I started a really low dose because I wanted to be more like non-binary. I didn't want to have lots of changes happen really fast. And I think as soon as my voice really started to drop and I was getting like facial hair, I kind of panicked and I was like, well, my dose is causing mood swings, so I'm gonna stop for a while. And I also don't know if I'm ready to like keep going my transition right now. But after sitting on it for a long time, I was like, I can't not be on T, and I'm really like happy with it now. But it did, like, I just want to validate people who are like kind of in that between of like, I don't know if I want to like fully transition, or I don't know if I really want to like, you can still be like non-binary and be on hormones. That's what I'm trying to say. If that's right for you, back to other stuff that I'm saying while I look much prettier. But I'm so glad that I decided to start T again. I'm really, really, really happy. And I just have so much like gender euphoria now. And yeah, I just want to share like how I knew and what that kind of meant for me and what the process was like. Because I think transitioning is like a really, really big decision, and you can have gender dysphoria and not want to transition, or it can be not be for you. And those things can exist. And I first just want to validate that. And I also want to say, like, please know that if you're looking, even when listening to me, if you're looking for validation, you'll find it. And if you're looking for invalidation, you'll find it. So just be mindful that you aren't invalidating yourself. I just know what it's like. So be honest with yourself as much as you can be. And at the end of the day, my story is my story. You don't have to relate to everything. And I'm not the arbiter of transness. And you can be like, you can transition socially and not want to transition medically, and that's completely valid. It's completely your story, your body, your experience, and nobody, not even like the trans gatekeepers who say like have opinions on non-binary being trans or not, like it's all you and your experience, and that is the most important thing at the end of the day. In my experience, people have come to me like, what am I? And it's just like, I can tell you like this is a completely valid experience, and I can tell you my experience to see, so that you can see how you relate to it. Excuse me. But at the end of the day, only you can know yourself and how you want to experience the world and what your experience is. Like, you may watch this and be like, oh, I guess I wasn't experiencing dysphoria, and it validates you. Or you will watch this and think, I have been experiencing this and I didn't realize it. So I just want to get that out of the way, a little disclaimer, and just shout out to everyone on the journey. It is difficult, and it took me a long time for me to accept. I think that was the first thing that is most important, which is like, I probably knew in some capacity, like my first experience and like memory of having trans thoughts about my body. I'm not gonna say any of that like born in the wrong body or at odds with my body. Like that's not really how I feel. Like I love being trans, and that has been me my whole life. And so my concept of like younger me is like still me. I never like played the role of being a girl or like felt like I had to be a girl. And I think I also had a special upbringing in that way where like gender wasn't super enforced and I was allowed to play a little bit. My parents still ended up being transphobic monsters, but like I still had the space to play. And I think part of that is just because like we didn't really know trans people existed on a large societal scale, except for maybe like a couple, like one or two, like people knew transsexuals existed, but like, and Chaz Bono, but like really apart from that, no one really, there wasn't like a huge presence that like people felt like they had to watch out for their kid being trans. So I had these like first kind of inclinations when I was very young, and I looked at my body and I was like, but I didn't start transitioning until I moved out of home, and even then it took me like 5 years to go from like starting my paperwork to even just starting testosterone at the right dosage. Like it took a really long time for me to figure out what was for me and like what wasn't. This is everything that helped me know, or at least the experiences that have stuck with me over time, because it was definitely always there, and there are many things I won't cover in this video, but these are kind of like things I think you could look out for. When I was 5-ish, that was when I first had thoughts about like, I don't think that's the right part, and because I was a child, so it wasn't like super like deep introspective thought, but it was like, I was like, I think that exists so that I can have boy parts later on. And I think it was like, it wasn't like I was thinking I want to be a boy, but I was like, that's so that I have that option. And I think I like wanted that option, but it wasn't a very deep thought. It was just like, that was how I was aware of like my like existing bits. And it wasn't even until I told someone that story later on that they're like, you can be whoever you want to be. And I was like, oh, is that a trans thing? Like, I just thought that was a normal thing that people thought about their body. They're like, maybe I'll want to be a boy one day. Plot twist. I don't think I'd ever even like heard of, somehow I knew trans people existed very vaguely, but I don't even know if I had ever heard of like a trans man existing. I don't think I had any education on that at 5 years old. So in case people are wondering, if you're trans, you're just gonna think about it because you're trans. No one has to influence you. When I was 12 years old, and this was also present throughout my life, but this is just like the first time I remember having a really like striking memory of it, was I was on the bus in middle school, 12 years old, and people were referring to me and saying like her and she, and I was like, are they talking about me? Like, I just had this feeling of like, that's not me. And I always really felt that way. But I think that was one of my most like, that was kind of when I actually had a conscious thought about it. And I was like, wait a second, like, I don't think that's me. That doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel comfortable. But I guess I have to answer because they're actually talking about me. And it's like the absolute reverse of when people say sir now, and I realized, oh wait, fuck, they're talking about me because I'm a boy. So that was a huge indicator for me of just like feeling like I can't quite explain, but it's like this feeling of like cringe or like what, like confusion, like in like deep like from my subconscious, just like no, whenever people misgender me. It's not even like, I think now people think of misgendering as very like aggressive or like violent, but for me it was always just kind of like that voice in the back of my head that was like, that's not right. No, I don't think so. So that would be a really great tell if that is something that you experience. When it came to top surgery, I didn't know I wanted top surgery until I saw other trans men. I didn't know it was an option, and I just didn't know if that was what I wanted. I think I definitely always had a lot of body dysphoria, but I thought it was just like incumbent in being like a teenage girl that you hate your body and you hate yourself. But so I had a lot of eating disorder tendencies. I always felt like it was just because I didn't like, I grew up in like the 2000s. We were a very eating disorder minded culture back then. So I didn't associate that with being trans for a while. But when I started meeting trans people, and I even like lived with someone for a bit who had top surgery, because I lived in gender neutral housing in my college, which is a huge serve and a huge slay, especially for 2010. I started thinking about it, and I was like, I don't want to just do it because I didn't know if I was trans yet. I think I started thinking I might be genderqueer because I found Tumblr in like 2008. I think I was like, this makes sense, but I wasn't sure if it was for me yet. I was still learning that I was queer, first of all, because I identify as like 80% of the way as like gay and 80% of the way as a man. I don't think I really look or act or move through the world much like a gay man. I move through the world a little bit like a gay man, I will say. But I feel also like very queer and non-binary as well. But growing up as a teenage girl, you're just like, well, I like boys and I like feminine things. And I just like have a lot of issues with my body. What teenage girl in 2008 didn't have a lot of issues with their body? So that was, I think, the most difficult thing to work through, was how I felt about my body. But there were other things that I knew. I remember being in like my photography class once in high school and talking to someone who I thought for sure was gonna come out as trans later, but didn't. But we were talking about how we both kind of feel more like gay men. And I remember I really liked, this is like the only part of my body that I don't shave now, which is like, I really just wanted to have hairy arms. I didn't want hairy legs. I shave my legs, I shave my chest, I shave my stomach, I shave my back. I'm very hairy. I bring up also because it's gonna become important later on. But I was like jealous of like people who had like that fine dark hair. Like I wanted that, and that was like a gender thing that I didn't totally realize. But I was just like, there was like a gay boy in our class, and he was very like a little bit masculine, a little bit effeminate, a little bit this, and me and my friend were talking about how like we relate to this, like I feel like that, but we didn't know that was like a thing, that like being a gay trans man was like not a concept in 2009. It was not at all. Being trans was hardly a concept. This was, I remember talking to the same person about Lady Gaga. This is when people were throwing around the accusations of her being trans, and we were like, but like, what would even be wrong? Like, even if she was trans, like, that was radical for the time. What other gender feelings did I have? I never wanted a beard. I obviously shaved my face. Never wanted a beard, and I never have a beard in drag. I loved girly things, I loved magical girl stuff, and I loved, like, Visual K, which was drag. Like, I can even go get my Versailles CD. Hold on. This? Drag. If you're unfamiliar with Visual K, these are musicians who are literally in full drag all the time on stage performing. And yes, this is signed, and I will brag about it. I am bragging. Look, it's signed. I'm such a nerd. I had the privilege of seeing Versailles at Anime USA in 2008. Complete privilege. So I already knew I loved like drag, but I just didn't know, I didn't see it as drag. I just saw it as like artistry. And I loved like androgyny and anyone who's kind of like in the middle and like genderless. Like I loved those things. I knew all of that. I was very attracted to it, but not in the way that I think like some people are attracted to it. Like they want that type of person, but I was the one that wanted to be that type of person. That took me a really long time to figure out, because for a while I thought maybe I'm just attracted to people like this. Plot twist, it was me the whole time. So again, those are some things that could be signs for you if there's like something where you like covet this. So then we were talking about like how I knew I was trans. So in college, I was fortunate to live among trans people, and I'm so lucky that like I got to live with trans people before trans people like kind of blew up a few years later as like, oh, maybe we shouldn't like kill trans people, and Drag Race started to have trans people on it and so forth. I'm lucky that I got to actually live with trans people first, and just experience that for myself and live with trans men, because trans men are not really represented out in the world of media, and I can't imagine why like misogyny still affects trans men, or or something, why don't we talk about this? That's another video, but I'm just like throwing that out there. So because of this experience, I was able to kind of think, well, even though I may not like really want a beard, I do think I would enjoy a bit of freedom here. I like told myself like, just think about it for like a month or a year. And if you still want it at like after a year, then yeah, you should get top surgery. And it like never went away. It was like my brain like very quickly like accepted the idea of like, you can be free. Like you don't need this. And top surgery is like the best decision I've ever made in my life, like 100%. But that's gonna be different for different people. Like not everyone wants to get all this the same, everything's different for everyone. But I know for me, I was like, yeah. So if you have a decision like that you're facing, like, and you're not sure, like just think like how many days of like a month or a year do you actually think about this? Like how many days do you think about maybe being trans? How many days do you think about maybe being non-binary or gay? You could apply this to whatever you want. If it's like most of them, that might be your sign. If it's like, I don't know, I don't think I'm this, but like what if I am because I like girly things or I like boyish things? Maybe you just want to express that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to transition. Again, this is totally your experience and your call, but that's just kind of what it suggests. There's plenty of people who do drag and are cis, but like deeply enjoy like looking that feminine or that masculine. And there are people who like, there are even straight people who do drag. There's Maddie Morphosis, who identifies as a cis straight man, and he does drag as a drag queen with other drag queens, and that's just what he wants to do, and that's his expression of himself. And he was like, I did question my gender and thought maybe I was trans, but I think this is just what I want to do. And I think that's so awesome, real and valid for anyone, and that can be anyone. Like maybe you just need an outlet for that aspect of yourself. I know there are a lot of people who are like, I just wish I had this body this days and this body those days. Like that is an option too. Like in those cases, transitioning may not be the thing. It may not tick all the boxes, and that's just like something you have to accept. Like me saying that like, I wish my face looked like this, and I just have to accept that it's never gonna. And it's like, even when you can do many surgeries to your face, but I don't really think you can like make your face longer. And I also wouldn't want to go through all that. So there are just like limitations of like how we like can choose and express our gender, but you just have to just work on like, what do I accept and what do I change? I hate to even say changing because I feel like I just became me. So yes, I can't know everyone's situation, and a lot of this is just like choose your own adventure. But I just wanted to say all experiences are valid, and not all things are necessarily going to have an answer. I just want to say that like, there's so many ways to be trans, there's so many ways to be non-binary, and you might not identify that way, and maybe you just want to do drag, or like all those things are valid 100% all the way through. I think there's something definitely about like, look at the type of people that you really admire, that you see yourself in. I think like that kind of like gut punch moment of like seeing yourself represented, like who is that for you? Is it a drag queen? Is it a drag king? Is it a trans person? Is it like cis women, cis men? Like that will also help you. I think for me, I always found representation like cartoons and like drag performers, because that was the most access I had to non-binary people. I never really related to cis men like at all, and I still kind of don't. You can express yourself, and it doesn't have to be about claiming an identity. Of course, like gender expression is gender expression, but you don't always have to even identify it if you don't want to. And then there's my experience of actually transitioning, which, like I said, getting top surgery was like the best decision I ever made in my life. I'm a very anxious overthinker. I will like second guess and gaslight myself like to the end of time. But I knew I wanted top surgery, and that drive to get it like never disappeared. I was like dead set on it. Like nothing else has ever like felt like that to me. Like I've never felt like I need to get like facial masculinization or bottom surgery or anything like as much as I wanted top surgery. It just felt like so inherent to me living my gender and my expression. It's also why I do drag shirtless like 99% of the time, because I just like, this is like the ultimate freedom for me. Like, and I'm gonna get all like the juice out of it I can in this lifetime. I had a lot of gender euphoria with my face when I started T the first time, but I don't remember my body changing as much as it did this time. Now that I've been on T for 2 years, it's a much different experience, or a much more different experience. But I remember when I stopped T, I was really heartbroken, and I made this really emo comic. If I find it, I'll put it here, about how I felt like I was a stranger after I stopped doing testosterone. But this face that I have now feels like the face that is mine. And when I look back at photos of me before testosterone, I'm like, it's like laughable, like how different I look and how bizarre it feels to me. Like, I'm like, literally, who is that stranger? I completely accept it as part of my journey, but it is really different. And I'm like, I'm so, like, I hope I'm on T for the rest of my life, because I'm just like so happy to look the way I look. So that has been part of my experience on T. And then I did mention the body hair earlier. This is another really great way, which, like, if you're thinking of hormones, to know, like, yes, this is for me, because when I look at like my cellulite, for example, which, if you don't know, cellulite is actually a secondary sex characteristic that occurs with AFAB people because of the way that like the fat distribution works. There's something about like the layers of fat and muscle that I don't entirely understand. And so I had cellulite, as any person like with estrogen and a little bit of fat in their body is gonna have. I had cellulite, and that gave me gender dysphoria, and so I'm gonna add this for context, that I don't have like a great relationship with either of my parents. I have like no relationship, actually. I associate it with my mom, because my mom also was like very like, my mom was like very pear-shaped, and so I didn't want to look like that. And I realized, I thought it was because I just didn't like my mom, but I realized it's actually gender dysphoria, because I also have my dad's like body hair, and you can't really tell, but like I have like curly dark hair, like here and here. That's like my dad, because he's Greek. But that doesn't give me any dysphoria. Like, I'm never like, ew, like this looks like my dad's hair. Like, I really don't like linger on them that much. And so then I realized, oh, this feeling was actually just gender dysphoria. Sometimes gender dysphoria can kind of just like hide in other forms, and you end up looking back and you're like, oh wait, that was actually gender dysphoria and I didn't realize it. So, and that's how I know that like I also am just so much happier like being on testosterone, because like, even though I don't like being hairy, I like having body hair, or it doesn't bother me that much. I just take it as part of being a boy. I shave it because I like how I look like this, and I like being a little like, I don't know, is this giving androgyny? And that's also part of my gender euphoria, but also being an androgynous boy is part of my gender euphoria. So I hope this is really helpful. I really hope this is helpful for like non-binary people, because I think that is a really difficult place to like decide whether to medically transition or not. But yeah, there's so many ways to experience this, and every single person's journey is going to be different. Just in general, like, I know that this is like just like how I feel happy and aligned with myself or something. And it's wonderful, and I really recommend it if you are like, I want to transition, but it's so difficult. I know it's so difficult, but you're just gonna like, it's just like it's just taking a huge weight off your shoulders. And now I get to worry about regular people things like taxes and my car registration and going to the grocery store when it's not too busy. It's just so wonderful to not worry about. I really hope that this helps anyone, one person. 2 would be great. If you feel like leaving a comment, feel free to. And I wish you the best of luck, and please love yourself. And I think that is the biggest superpower of being trans, is learning to love yourself and doing a damn good job of it. So even just being here, I'm proud of you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, week, year. Subscribe if you like, and I'll see you later. Bye.